Hello and welcome to Game Design Hour. I'm your host, Miles Goldsmith, and on each episode, I interview the people who create the video games you know and love. On today's episode, I'm interviewing two of the amazing people behind the video game Railbound. Railbound is a relaxing puzzle game where you make your way through levels by fixing the train tracks. Without any further ado, let's meet our guests and get into the interview.
Hi, I'm Szymon, also Simon. I am a programmer and technical artist at Afterburn.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm a DevOps and marketing specialist at Afterburn.
What was the first thing that really sparked both of your interests in creating video games?
In my case, it was, I think, college. I wasn't really thinking of creating games until I went to college and then I started programming. I really quite quickly realized that programming is fun and that creating games kind of connects my other hobby, which is kind of connected to arts, like drawing and such. So yeah, I then found a group of students that make games. And well, I started going to game jams and find out that's actually pretty fun.
And with me, I was playing Pokemon Red on my brother's Game Boy Color, and I erased his save, and he got really mad at me. And then I was looking for a way to restore the data. I didn't succeed then, but I think that this was the first project that I was working on in kinda IT, and then it sparked to being a game developer.
Before working on Railbound, what sort of other projects have you two worked on, and what important lessons have you learned from working on those other projects?
So there's one project before Railbound. Actually, I think we can tell the story from Railbound.
Yep.
So basically, we met at college and we started working on one special game called Train Connector. It was a mobile puzzle game about connecting trains. So it was a predecessor basically of Railbound. We were both working on it during college. And after like a year and a half of development at university, we took part in a contest at our uni and we won and we were spotted by the CEO of Afterburn. Yeah, so basically we decided to co-develop the Train Connector, and which then later turned into Railbound.
Before the Train Connector, we were working on another project together, and this project was like something like Bad North, but you were attacking, and it was really bad. we couldn't then design the levels so it will be entertaining enough. And the lesson would be there: if something is bad and you cannot solve it, just throw it away. It's okay to start another project.
Yeah.
Then we started working together on Train Connector, and now we are here after Railbound's premiere, and it's great.
What are some of the biggest influences and inspirations behind Railbound?
Didn't actually have many inspirations because the kind of idea popped up. But during development, we had a few inspirations connected with mechanics. One of the inspirations is Minecraft with the rail system and those pressure plates, etc. I think another one would be Cosmic Express, but in a way much later development. We actually didn't know about the existence of Cosmic Express when we were working on Train Connector.
I'm sorry, Draknek. We love you, but
Yeah.
We didn't know.
Dragnet is great. So we were looking like for some of the solutions Cosmic Express did with like drawing or the camera work. And there were some visual inspirations as well. I think Monument Valley.
Yeah, Monument Valley is one of the greatest, and I believe also Cosmic Express at the later date.
Yeah.
After coming up with the initial idea, what was your brainstorming process like, and what were the first initial steps you took towards creating the game?
When we created the core concept of the game, we kind of really sat together and discussed what we would like to add to the game. At the beginning, it was mainly the game mechanics, like the barriers, tunnels, and such. So yeah, we just basically discussed through ideas with each other, and something new were created.
When designing or brainstorming things, you have to remember the design process is always an iteration. You have to make something to know if it is good. Like for example, the first prototype tunnels from Railbound were meant to be placed by the player, but then we realized it's like really stupid idea. Then every level would be the same, and we thought, okay, so now we have to place them before starting.
Pretty much every game has interesting ideas that were cut for some reason or another, but were at one point or another possibly going to be in the game. What were some of those ideas that you talked about for Railbound, but just never ended up making it into the final product?
There are plenty of them. So now we are developing free DLC, or I should say 2.0 update for Railbound. It premieres February 3rd. And the core mechanics behind this update are semaphores, which ironically were the first mechanic that we designed back in the prototype.
Yeah.
But then we thought it doesn't fit anymore, but it would be cool as a DLC. There are like plenty of mechanics that we implemented, but then thought, okay, it isn't clear enough, or levels for this mechanic
would be too hard.
To see the solution. So like right now we have one mechanic that is ready, but it's not implemented. But we are not trying to put it in a game. But the main thing is levels.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't exaggerate if I say that, like, always if you have a puzzle game, you make 2 times levels that end up in the game, at least.
Yeah.
I believe that like some games have like even 3 times the levels that end up in the game designed beforehand.
Well, we just iterate all the time. We usually got some like world layout with almost 30 levels, but then we decide to actually switch places or just get rid of the level. So yeah, that's hard.
Managing scope is really important while creating a video game. How did you work to manage your scope while working on Railbound, and how did the scope change throughout the process of creating the game?
Well, scope changed quite a lot. I remember we started working here at Afterburn, and first approximation of the release date was like a year ago, not 5 months ago, but a year ago at January, February. So we didn't really manage that scope well.
Yeah, but it's because we thought it will be a much smaller game. When we revealed the project to the people, we didn't think that it will get so much attention. So it just grew on us.
If I were to point like one part of the game that took really, really long, I think it would be the visual style of the game. It was harder than we thought in the beginning. And well, it took a lot of work and a lot of technical optimizations and such. But we were really happy with that. So I think that was well spent time. Yep.
When making any game, especially a puzzle game, playtesting is important so that you know that players can understand how the game works and how the puzzles and mechanics in the game work. While working on Railbound, how did you go about doing your playtesting, and what sort of important information did you learn from playtesting?
Okay, so firstly, we do internal testing every Wednesday. It's set in our schedule that on Wednesday, 10 a.m., we are sitting together. Everyone gets another device like iPhone or an Android phone or a PC or a Mac, and we play for an hour, and then we discuss what we just saw in the game. It's important, especially for people like me. I'm a developer. I don't see the game every day. So like it's very important for the team to know what's in the game right now and what design team is working on right now. So that's our internal testing. And about beta testing?
Yeah, we got internal testing and another part, just as Andrew said, beta testing. We basically give access to beta tests for community on different platforms like Android, iOS, or PC. And I think one of the most important of the testing was, well, right before the release. We had Trello connected with the tests so people could send reports in the game. And it was really, really helpful, not only in finding bugs, but also like for understanding where are the design problems of the game, what parts are not clear enough for the players. Because when we design mechanics in the game, we really want to game explain itself. And we really want to avoid any pop-ups explaining in text how does this mechanic works or what happens if you do that. So yeah, we just kind of try to do that by creating certain levels. And feedback from the players is really helpful in that.
What game engine did you use to create Railbound, and what was your experience with using that game engine?
We used Unity. I think our experience was pretty good. Unity has its problems.
Our problem is 5 years ago when we were starting learning game development at uni. Unity was like the most accessible option. Of course, you always have Game Maker, and it's a great engine. You always had Unreal Engine. It's a great engine, but it's not good for the small games that we make. Godot like wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah.
And Unity was like also something that we had on our uni.
Many teachers
just used Unity. And then 5 years ago, I even looked at the job offers, and Unity was like the most prominent engine back then. Right now, it's like 50-50 between Unreal and Unity in Poland. But that's the thing. That's why we chose to make a prototype and then a final game in Unity. It isn't great, and Unity is now in crisis with management. They're firing people, and we're a little bit scared about the future of the engine. But this is what happened. Like we went with Unity, and right now we are still making games in Unity.
Now I remember that there was one moment that we had a problem with Unity. Because like Unity is really great for quick prototyping, but it has some technical issues, I would call that this way. Like those render pipelines, there are universal render pipeline, HD render pipelines, and the basic one. And some of them has some like implementations, some other doesn't have these implementations. So there were moments when we wanted to do something like add some visual effects. And it turns out it's really hard to do that in render pipeline that we use. And if we use the other one, it would work more easily. So this kind of things.
Is there anything that you wish you knew before starting work on the game?
I would like to know how much money we will make with that. It's unreal.
Well, I think like maybe how hard is the process, creating the visuals of the game. Yeah, I had no idea we would struggle so much with that. And I think we didn't plan it well because of that. Because I think we could start the visual process way before. But, well, we managed.
Which parts of the game did you have to put the most time and effort into to get just the way you wanted it?
Oh, that's the level design. The creating proper level design and the layout of the whole worlds, and the good progression curve, so that consecutive levels are not too hard or are not too easy. They introduce new mechanics in such a way that they're easy to understand. That I think took most of the time because the levels were iterated and iterated and iterated. So yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah, and I think technical things with art style
that as well.
Also were the thing. Like it took us like 4 or 5 months.
Yes.
Between the finish of the art direction process, like to getting to the Railbound style as it is.
Yeah, I think it's mostly because of the lack of the good people for that. I mean, like our team is majority programmers. We didn't have much we had for one moment for a longer moment one graphic designer, and now we have like another. But for the majority of the development of Railbound, 4 out of 5 people in the studio were programmers. And we struggled with the like just Andrew said, graphics, and with the game design as well. I mean, level design as well, because there was only one person at the beginning that really took their time to create levels. We all made the levels, but that one person had the greatest experience with that, and we were only gaining the experience. So that would be the reason.
When making puzzles for video games, you need to make sure that they're difficult enough that players feel like they've accomplished something, but not so difficult that the players get frustrated and quit the game. How did you work to achieve that balance while working on the puzzles for Railbound?
I believe it's like, just like we said, it's only iteration can save you. You have to make levels, show them to people, to beta testers, to your internal testers. To be honest, short after the premiere of Railbound, I firmly believed that I could speedrun the game fastest in the world, because like I knew the puzzles so well. Right now, we have a 20-minute speedrun on speedrun.com.
Yes.
So I'm not longer the fastest man in Railbound right now, but you have to iterate and you have to check. You have to discuss it and brainstorm it to be sure. And the beta tests to your community is the key here.
Now I think we did one thing. We put the simpler levels in one place and the harder levels in another. I mean, we have like basic levels and bonus levels. And we just decided that, okay, bonus levels are the harder levels. So that's one way to deal with 2 hard levels, I guess.
Yeah. Like this is really important that you decide what does the bonus level in your game mean. In our game, I believe that everyone, I mean, like from age 7, or I don't know what peg we are. I don't remember right now. It's from age 7 to 99, everyone will complete Railbound. And the harder levels that really shine, that really make our game unique, are hidden in the bonus levels. But to do this, we had to realize that main path is for everyone, and the bonus path is only for the people that want to make everything, to have done every level and make a platinum trophy.
Are there any small, fun little details that you've added into the game that you really like, but you don't really see too many players find?
I think I got one. I made the animations for the cars, like when they're tilting on turns or when they crash. I think that's something that's my kind of... Not everyone can see, but every time I play, I really like them.
I believe that in every Afterburn game, we have pets in credits. Yeah. And that's something that's not everyone is noticing. But also, okay, I'm not sure because we tweeted about that. But you can also pet the dogs in postcards. This is something that is kind of hidden, and it's nice. And you can pet the dog in Railbound.
That's really cool.
Yep.
What was the biggest challenge that you faced while working on Railbound?
I think level design would be one thing for sure.
I will kind of get personal here. I think the biggest struggle for me was imposter syndrome. When we were picked up by Afterburn, we were straight out of college, and I wasn't sure that I'm correct person for this job. Like I knew that this game is good enough to be made as a commercial product, but I wasn't sure that I can achieve this. And this is something that's I struggle every day. But now I know, after the plenty of positive reviews and plenty of discussions with our leads at Afterburn, that we are correct people, correct team that made just a good game.
Yeah, I felt very similar at the beginning. Like there were those thoughts: are we good enough? Am I making enough to like make this good game good? But yeah, it's disappointed at the time. Luckily,
Looking back now, is there anything you wish you could have done differently before the initial launch of the game?
I'm not sure actually. Like everything went quite great.
Yeah, I would sleep more now because I wasn't working then. Like we didn't crunch before launch, but despite the fact that we didn't work more than normally, I was stressing too much. And now I know when you. I will tell you a secret that no one ever told. No game dev will tell you. When you release your game, nothing changes. Like
Yeah.
you're pushing the button on Steam, like premiere now or something like this. Publish now or something, and like word isn't stopping. Like you don't see those charts go up in a minute. It happens over time. So don't stress that much.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I would change. Not stressing.
What was the biggest lesson that you learned from working on Railbound?
We were discussing this question earlier.
Yeah.
And no, I forgot what we were talking about then. I think that the biggest lesson is you have to iterate. You have to make the one thing twice or 3 times or like even 100 times. You have to iterate. You have to check things. And it's also kind of you also have to be kind of lucky. It's also a factor.
Yeah, I think like I could add one thing that I kind of knew of already, but well, I had to be reminded of. Do not really underestimate the feedback of the players, because well, we all know that we should just show the game all the time to some new players to get some fresh feedback. But we had a situation during development of DLC where we quite late in development realized that something is not right with the UX of the mechanic, and we had to redesign it quite late. Yeah, I think testing things way earlier.
What do you feel is the most difficult part about making video games?
Okay, so making games is a team sport. You have of course, there are examples of solo developers, but especially when you start or when you are at our level of like kind of somewhere between a mid game developer, you have to work in teams. And I believe that most people in game dev have really strong characters, and sometimes discussions turns into fights and you have to deal with it, and next day you have to be at work again. So the hardest thing in game development is to realize that when you are working on a team, you have the same goal as the other person, and for both of you or for all of you, it's always the same. You always have the same passion.
That's a really good point. Now that I think about it, what we studied at university, we studied programming, game design, graphics design, but we really didn't study it. Nobody taught us how to work in teams. It's something that we had to figure out by ourselves. Well, I personally didn't really get the importance of teamwork, of good teamwork before I started working here. So yeah, that's the thing, I believe.
What would be your biggest piece of advice to a newer game dev trying to go and make their first game?
Just do it.
Yep, your first game will suck. I'm sorry. My first game sucked. Your first game didn't happen.
The first game will be not good. The second game will be not good. The third game maybe will be better. Fourth game will be probably okay, but just make a lot of games because the only way to learn game design is just making games. Don't get stuck in a one game for too long. Yeah, and finish games quickly.
The second piece of advice is most games that are on the market have good design. Don't try to make something new without the reason. Like my first game was Enter the Gungeon clone, and I refused to inspire with Enter the Gungeon movement. I wrote. I thought I will design a good enough movement on my own, and it didn't work. Like, no, don't be afraid to be inspired by the work of others.
I think, yeah, like imitating the other games, especially at the beginning of a game, of like the adventure of game design is quite a good thing just to get the grasp of the things. And then I think when you gain the confidence, you can just experiment and do something interesting.
Game jams are great.
Yeah, game jams.
Like go for a game jam. It's always nice.
I think like the main reason why I learned making games for game jams. So that's definitely a thing.
What's next for both of you? What are you working on now?
Okay, so we are currently working on a DLC for Railbound, which will premiere beginning of February. This a new mechanic, around 30 new levels.
Yes, 30 new levels.
And I know what could we add about these mappers.
It's a interesting twist on some things that Railbound is doing well on its own. So I think that's nice. And when this will premiere, we will already be working on something else.
Yeah, but we haven't really decided yet what exactly.
We will make a new game. I hope.
Yeah,
we will make a new game after Railbound's DLC.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been great interviewing you.
Thank you. It was fun.
And that was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, make sure to follow or subscribe. It's different on every platform. Also, consider sharing it with a friend if you think they might like the show. You can also consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you want to stay up to date with what's going on with Game Design Hour, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok at Game Design Hour. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I can see you next time.